Amit, if you can also quickly tell us, this is not the first time questions are being asked about Boeing. In fact, if you look at from a global point of view also, there have been certain companies which actually have been pointing fingers towards these kind of glitches, and these kind of glitches coming very frequently in Boeing aircraft.
Well, Ashwarya, as far as this one is concerned, the 7878, which is the Boeing Dreamliner, this is its first fatal accident ever since its launch back in 2011. So it almost had impeccable report card in terms of safety and in terms of air incidents or accidents for that matter. Yes, there could have been incidents reported across the world with different airline operators, but fatal accidents haven't been reported with Boeing Dreamliner series of fleets at least, and there are around 1,100 of them flying in the air even as we speak with different operators, with different countries. Those are still in the sky, up and running, and in fact, even with the Air India, which had the entire fleet had to go through intensive, enhanced safety check. But yes, there will be questions that will be asked, and as you rightly pointed out, that in the recent past as well, there have been concerns about the technical glitches. The Boeing has been struggling with a couple of these acquisitions as well from the whistleblowers or people who call themselves whistleblowers. If I speak about, if I become really, really specific in this particular case, and you call it incident, a coincident, back in 2012, there was a report, a similar case which happened in South Carolina airport in USA, and that was taxi test of Air India's Boeing Dreamliner itself. That's the very stark coincidence that we can see at this uncanny coincidence that we can see in this particular case as far as the model and the operator is concerned. So it was Air India Boeing 787 craft for a taxi test in America. And the right engine of that particular craft failed to get thrust, after which the takeoff had to be aborted. And in that particular test, there were technical issues that were found in the entire report that was carried out, investigation that was carried out by the NTSB. And the report clearly mentioned as to why the right engine failed to get thrust, because a specific component of that particular craft was damaged when it was taking that taxi test in America. So yes, Boeing will remain under scanner, and
Right.
this particular investigation will also make them, keep them on their toes. What we can hope is that the things don't turn out in other direction, because that would indicate or trigger much more bigger concern for the international civil aviation community as well. And as of now, what we can certainly tell our viewers that this investigation is going to take several more months for a conclusive report to come out. Back to you.
Right, Abid, you made a very valid point. The point that the global community is very closely looking at what this report will bring to the fore, because what we are understanding, and this is what experts also, barely hours after we saw the crash, the experts were also speaking about the fact that double engine failure is not something which usually happens. It's very, very rare. But what exactly happened? That's the question which global experts are also at the moment looking at very closely.
Right, Ashwarya. At least we have the response or the answer to the question to begin with, as to how this accident, how this crash, how this tragedy unfolded in Ahmedabad. And that points out at the fuel switches, engine fuel switches. Now, what needs to be zeroed down by the investigative agencies, whether it's the AIB or it's the assisting agency NTSB or the AIB of the United Kingdoms. What is pretty clear is that the investigation from here will lead to a situation to look into three aspects, so to say. Number one, whether it was a technical glitch or a manual issue. If it happened because of manual issue, the investigations will start looking at a more, minutely at the conversation of the cockpit, what transpired between the two pilots, and also the sheets that were log sheets that were filed for the AI 171 craft that took off from Ahmedabad. If it was a technical glitch, Boeing is certainly going to be in big, big trouble for that particular aspect. You can't just leave it to the operator. The manufacturer will be also in question in the dock for that. So that question remains, that big question remains. And third thing that will be looked into is that whether other components, because again, we are saying, it's a Boeing Dreamliner, but several of component equipment manufacturers are part of the entire process. So whether it was because of some other component which would have contributed to the failure or transition, unexpected transition with the fuel switches, that has to be investigated as well. So answers to these questions will be looked for by AAIB, by the NTSB, by the AAIB UK. And we also need to tell our viewers in this particular case that while the international domain experts have been roped in for transparency and better investigation, India continues to be in control of the entire investigation. The Indian government has appointed, or AAIB to be very specific, has appointed five investigators in this particular case, with one being the investigator in chief, three others serving as the investigators in the entire probe. And the investigation would continue to happen with more
Right, Amit.
assistance from the NTSB in this particular case. Back to you.
Thank you, Amit, giving us all those details. My colleague breaking it down for you. We are now telling you what the initial report is pointing towards. First, it was both the engines that failed seconds after the takeoff took place. Now, this indicates that there was complete power loss. This is what the initial report is pointing towards. Pilots deny initiating fuel cutoff switches. So that's the conversation that happened between both the pilots. The engine tried to relight but failed. It was too late by the time they were trying to switch on both the engines. The crash took place barely 32 seconds after liftoff. The plane was at a very low altitude. The thrust levelers found to be idle. The data showed that thrust levelers were not deployed by the pilots. No bird strike took place, no bad weather condition on that particular day. The fuel tested has been clean, no contamination has been found in the fuel. The crew was experienced, it was medically fit and very well rested. So those parameters also are a 10 on 10. Possible switch failure, which was not inspected, that is also something which at the moment is looking at. This is the initial report. The complete investigation will take place about 7 to 8 months. So the entire world now very keenly looking at this investigative report.